Hey guys, so I think my first video that I want to do is going to be based a little bit around ego. So yeah, just I think a conversation around how we let our egos rule our lives sometimes and the effect that can have on people. So first of all, like the definition of ego is the I or self. It's a person's sense of self or self-esteem or self-importance. So what we really need to what I want to look at is how ego affects us in our life and our day, and the importance of trying to acknowledge and quiet your ego. It's one of the most challenging things that you will ever try and do in your life. I myself have not been able to fully relinquish my ego. It's something that I struggle with on a daily basis. It's so easy to let your ego take over and let your ego rule your life. One thing that I notice for me is when I let my ego rule, those days are just the worst days. I cannot control the chaos. And it doesn't matter how hard I try, I can't rewind that chaos and bring it back to a normal day. So I feel like having a conversation about it is super important, because it affects us so much more than I think anybody actually realize. For me, when I let my ego take over and I am so rooted in that self-importance or that pity of myself, I don't register the pain that it actually can cause other people. And when I do, and I see the pain that it can cause people, it's horrible, and it makes me want to take a step away, and it makes me want to try and do better. You know, you can get so locked into self, and not in the good way, and be so in pity, or at the other end, be way too prideful, or be, sit there and think that you're better than somebody else, put yourself up on that pedestal. And that is so important to acknowledge, because you need to understand the damage that you can be doing to somebody when you put yourself before them, and also the damage that it can cause to yourself when you allow yourself to think that you are better than anybody. You are 100% letting that ego control you and letting that negativity win. And it can be so harsh and so painful for the person on the other end of it. For myself, as a mother, and just as a person, but, as a mother, when I get angry at my kids, and that frustration that can just build over the smallest, most insignificant thing. But it's that thing when you've just had one of those days and you just cannot let it go, and it just builds up until you snap. Like we've all been there in one way or another, and in no way means that you're a bad person or a bad parent. You've just simply lost control, and it happens. But it's the way that you act in those times, and the way that your children or people perceive you in those times is what's important. And we all need to acknowledge what other people's perception of us is in those times, because it can be a lasting impression that you're leaving on somebody. And it scares me as a mum to think that I could be leaving negative impressions on my kids, because as a mother, all I want is my kids to grow in love and light. I want them to experience the world in all of its glory, and some of that can be bad. It can be negative, it can be sad, but it can also be so incredibly beautiful. And I think if we just sit back and try and enjoy it a little bit, and if you just breathe and find the light, which is so much harder than just saying it. But if we just try, it can be so much better. If we just acknowledge that our ego is present, and then we try and move it aside so that we don't let it take over that light. We let the love and the light win, you know? The negativity is always going to be there in some way, shape, or form, but it's how we acknowledge that and how we let it pass. You know, so if we get stuck in ego, it can be so hard to even see that we are in that space. And we can't acknowledge that we're even being a certain way. So I try in those times to see it and then let it pass and not get stuck in the small things that have made you mad or make you feel superior to somebody. No one wants to feel like that. No one wants to feel like that. So try and breathe through it. Try and see it, and then try and let it pass. Don't live in it. To rise above your ego is such a life goal, and it is such a difficult goal to try and achieve. You know, we just need to take a big deep breath and keep moving forward and keep trying to be better. We are all so beautiful, and we are all so good at heart. We just need to remember that when we get lost on our way. Have an absolutely beautiful day. So much love and light from my heart to yours.